to say up front in terms of what's changed since 2012 is the exposure levels are orders of magnitude higher, right? So not only, I mean, just as a starting point, more people have cell phones. But, you know, in 2012, the iPhone was still pretty new. So most people didn't have what we now call smartphones. And the reason I mention that is because smartphones aren't just cell phones, which on their own are pretty powerful things, but they also include Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, GPS, all these other wireless technologies that are adding to your EMF exposure. So more people have these devices, and these devices emit much more of this type of radiation. Because more people have them, we have many more cell towers and antennas. Back when we wrote overpowered, it's almost certain that your thermostat wasn't a source of EMF, but now you may have a Nest. It's almost certain that your doorbell wasn't a source of EMF back in 2012, but now you might have Ring.
Yeah.
And there
Your
are
watch.
yeah, right. I remember when a watch was there to tell time. That's the generation I come from. But and we're using all of this stuff more, right? People carry their phones more today and use their phones more today than they did in 2012 because they are much more useful devices. So the exposure levels are way, way higher, and they are coming from more varied sources. That makes protection a more complicated thing to think about and to talk about and to really address.
Yeah, and I think too, I just want to stop for a second and just say, when I heard you say there's 260 products in the store, I'm like, whoa, what? But when you're talking about all these different types of new exposures, it makes sense why there's going to be different, maybe a higher volume of products, because you're not just talking about back in the day when, you know, the cell phone was the primary source for most individuals. Now, as you're saying, it's all over your house, it's on your body. And not only that too, I think another really important thing to realize, it's not just the multiple exposures, but we're exposed to it all day every day.
Yeah.
The
Although I would
duration.
say that for most people, and this is my own personal belief. It's I don't know how we could possibly back it with data, but it's based on intuition. For most people, their cell phones are their biggest avoidable source of EMF exposure. And that's as true today as it was back in 2012. Because, I mean, you know, if there's a cell tower down the street, there's a cell tower down the street. So I don't consider that to be an avoidable exposure unless you're willing to move. But with the cell phone, you are in control of how you do that. Plus, these cell phones are really, really highly powered devices, right? And I mean, the cell phone itself has enough power to send and receive these signals over miles, if that's where the closest cell tower happens to be. But then you add in the Wi-Fi, then you add in the Bluetooth, all this stuff I was just talking about. And then you need to remember this critical fact about EMF, which is the power of the exposure diminishes exponentially with distance. So if the phone is 1 inch away from your body and you move it 2 inches away from your body, you've cut the power of that exposure by 75%. Then if you double it again to 4 inches, you've cut it by another 75%. Conversely, when you're carrying it in your pocket, or God forbid, holding it up against your head to take a call, you are getting a maximum possible dose that this very overpowered device can possibly emit. And so these exposures are very, very, very high, even when you're comparing it to something like a nearby cell tower. And they are from a device that is completely within your control. You decide when it's on. You decide where to carry it. You decide how to speak on it, or if like me, you even speak on it at all. And so that's why cell phones are such an important focus of the book and my work.